Hey gamers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Ashnava Gaming and welcome back to The Witcher Wild Hunt. So in the previous episode you might remember that we did a job for Hattori who was the one who's selling dumplings, but we also learned that he was actually selling the swords, and he was a master swordsmith, but because of the monopoly of Van Horn on the raw materials of the swords, he has to sell dumplings, and Van Horn was, you can say, kind of blackmailing Hattori, kind of. So we helped Hattori, we got him his bodyguard back who was Sukrus, but now Hattori wants me and Sukrus to break in and get some raw materials so that it would be a bit easy for Hattori to make some swords. So for that we have to do something. But before starting this episode, off camera I played the Gwent against that guy and I used my Nilfgaardian Empire you can say deck, and I didn't get anything. I got a clear weather card. That's right, I got another clear weather card. So now I think in totality I have got Biting Frost, 2 Biting Frost, 3 Torrential Rain card, 3 clear weather card, and 3 Impenetrable Fog, 2 Impenetrable Fog card I think. So there was nothing much that I got, but off camera I also got a bunch of books while I was actually exploring a bit over here and there, and I came over this bookstore and I met this guy who kind of, you can say, knows us because someone told him. That's right, someone told him about us, like white hair and all that stuff. So let's talk to him first.
Geralt of Rivia, known as the White Wolf, the Butcher of Blaviken.
Geralt of Rivia's enough. What is it?
A man came to me a few years past, paid me to keep a book for you, said you'd come for it one day.
Who
Oh,
was he?
He didn't introduce himself, but the book has a red cover, that I remember. I'm sure I've not sold it.
Alright, see if I can find it.
And perhaps glance at the others while you're at it.
alright. Glad to look at the others. Let's see.
Be glad to look over what you got.
Oh, you got a bunch of books. Fauna of the Northern Realms, Volume 1. Few Remarks of Basilisk and Cockatrice. What is this one? In Beast Clothing, I've read that one already. Few Remarks, let's buy this. I'm gonna buy all the books. Journey to the End of the World. Wondrous World of Insectoids. Gollum, or Man's Most Faithful Servant. Ghouls and Al-Ghouls. Beast of the Tukach Foothills. The Little Peasant Who Confounded His Lord. Narenson, Son of Gunstead. How to Avoid Colossal Vessels. The Horse Whistler. The Wild Hunt. My Evening with a Vampire. The World Underground. The Ways and Manners of Skellige Folk. Necronomicon. And Pearls of the North, Oxenford. So we have got a bunch of books and we have to read all those books, so let's go. Reading books takes some time. Okay, first of all we have got Fauna of the Northern Realms Volume 1, Bestiary entry added. What a wolf is, every man knows, who hasn't heard them howling at night or seen their tracks in the snow come morning. Who hasn't felt a cold chill run down his spine when he catches sight of a pack of 5 of them hunting in the woods. These beautiful animals are treated by men as enemies, and not without reasons, for they attack our flocks and will even kill our horses during times of deep frost. Yet they are noble beasts endowed with great intelligence and displaying a strength and independence that no man can help but admire. The Little Pheasant Who Confounded His Lord. Winter was on its way and the Lord once again started to think about what to do to oppress his people even more. One morning at the crack of the cockerel's crow, he rode out into the village in a carriage pulled by 2 black horses, with his trusted page at his side to act as his scribe. The earth was sodden and a cruel mud covered the road, so the Lord, not wanting to dirty his shiny new boots, staying in his carriage and sent his page to do his bidding. When they arrived at the village, the page dismounted from the carriage, a page covered in thick ink clutched in his hands. A paper. He nailed the paper to the first hut he saw, and since he did it with a hammer, a peasant boy named Reuben soon opened the door up to see what was the matter. The boy was 12 years of age and had a straw-colored shock of cow-licked hair and few and freckled face with ruddy cheeks. Well, what do you want? What do you want? Grumbled the page, looking at Reuben's shirt, which was covered in the same filth as everything else in the village. Well, nothing, rightly. Reuben shrugged. Thank you, sir. This here's my home. Then get inside. The boy wasn't scared and instead stood on his doorstep looking at the piece of paper. So what's this, sir? A letter? The boy asked. Read it and find out for yourself. The scribe said, growing angrier, though Reuben didn't seem to notice. I feared I can, sir. Don't know how. What the devil's checking you, scribe? The Lord hollered. He was still sitting in his carriage and hadn't heard the conversation. Clearly he was growing bored. The web says he doesn't know how to read. Aye, 'cause he don't, Reuben confirmed and took 2 steps towards the carriage, his bare feet sinking into the muddy grey muck. And the ones inside, do they? Questioned the Lord. Where do you reckon they'd learn a thing like that, my lord? The peasant asked, perplexed, for he had always thought great lords like that must surely know everything. So who's in your village does know how to read? Asked the Lord, growing even more irritated. Not no one, my lord. Scribe, the Lord said, leaning far out while leaning on his carriage door. Could you explain to me how I am to enforce my declaration to people who do not know how to read and write? I don't know, my lord, the scribe said, taking a step back as if he expected the Lord to jump out of the carriage and assault him. The fault was not his, but the Lord was in the habit of beating his scribe when he grew angry, no matter the cause. The horse whistler. Breaking in a horse psyche is a simple matter of instilling your will as the wild rider into your mount. Acquiring its trust and training its obedience. Horses are intelligent, noble beasts, so they should be treated with tenderness and a decisive, firm energy. Meyer, the unquestioned authority in this area, emphasizes that when training one's mount, a rider must eternally on the lookout for errors in the training itself. Every time the taming process ends in failure, the rider must look for the blocking error first of all in his own actions. Secondly, in the horse's anatomy, and only in a last resort by concluding the horse has a natural difficult temperament. Okay, I had to go. New quest, message from an old friend. Yeah, but we were reading books. Yeah, there it is. The horse whistler. Okay. Adhering to this principle protects one from undue punishments which destroy the possibilities of reaching an understanding between rider and mount and make it impossible to gain the animal's trust. Okay. Okay, so that was the book. That was done. Next book. Brother Adalbert's Bestiary. Each beast herein there are 15 books, okay. Each beast herein described in 2 manners you may hunt. Either seek your tracks, follow and strike the foulness wherever in its wild you find it, or lure it to a chosen place and engage it there in advantageous battle. The latter poses less risk, for the hunter exposes no chance for an unexpected fight. Note, however, that to lure a beast into a trap, first its taste and behaviors you must know. As for folktales, bind them thusly, pound a stake in the soil, bind a goat to it, then hide you in near to shrubbery post haste. The beast lured by the caprine odor will without fail soon come. If it is a griffin you seek to slay, take you buckthorn from deep water. That is what we did to slay the griffin in White Orchard. The mighty stench of this herb is to griffins like fresh roasted meat of the primest sort, and so come they will forthwith. Though far away they might be, turning to drowners and water hags, it is known to all and sundry that fish and rotten mollusks are their loves, and as for trolls, common hooch is their weakness. The Wild Hunt. A frail ribbon flickers across the sky, the rider's spectral silhouettes barely discernible within it. Then the cavalcade comes closer and closer, revealing more and more of their ghastly form. Now the buffalo horns atop their helmets penetrate one's view, now the crest betwixt them, and now the skull-like face exposed beneath their visors. The riders sit astride skeletal mounts, bits of barding stuck to their sides like boils. A furious gale howls through the willows. Their blades now glisten like unfailing stars in the black sky. The wind howls louder and louder. No, that is no wind, that is ghoul song. Suddenly the nightmarish cavalcade twists once more, the hooves of its ghastly mounts churning the light of will-o-wisps hanging above the bog. At the head of the cavalcade rides the king of the hunt. A rust-eaten bassinet sways about a skull-like mask. Gaping eye sockets burn with a pale blue fire around him whirls a tattered cloak, a necklace rattles atop his rust-covered breastplate. Holes empty as the abyss stare out from it. Once they were filled with precious stones, but these fell out during his race across skies and became stars. The king of the hunt laughs, his teeth rotten as the grave, snapping above the rusted collar of his breastplate. The blue flames in the eye sockets of the skeletal mask roar. A few remains of the basilisk and the cockatrices. Why we got such big eyes, grandmum? asked the little girl with worry. Shriek, shriek, replied the basilisk. Grandmum, why did you say shriek, shriek? asked the little girl with surprise. The basilisk didn't reply, but instead clammed his toothy venomous maw over the curious little girl and swallowed her up. Okay, freaking hell. Luckily, a witcher by the name of Eskel. Oh, Eskel was wandering these lands in search of a Zeugl. The witcher was experienced and so knew basilisk only turn people to stone in fairy tales. He also knew it is the best to avoid their venom. Eskel noticed the monster had recently eaten, and before anyone could say ready, steady, go, he threw himself at the beast and cut it open with his silver sword. The basilisk stomach opened up and Witcher saw the half-digested foolish little girl inside. Man, that is so nasty. Necronomicon. To think that man appeared on an empty world and gained mastery over it unchallenged is as foolish as thinking the world will cease to exist after man's passing. Before the first human set foot on our world, it was inhabited by beings superior to men in terms of wisdom, strength, and even every other virtue. The beings I have in mind still exist in our present times, though they do not exist in a sphere available to human understanding. They occupy no dimension known to us. Where they live can best be described as space between worlds. At times, one can sense their presence through a sudden unknown scent or a strange feeling of anxiety with no apparent cause. A wind which blows in several directions at once is another example of their subtle manifestations in our realm. There exist various imagings of what these creatures might look like, yet these have nothing to do with the reality, for a man is incapable of conceiving something which he has not seen, even in his wildest nightmares. Okay, whoever has written this doesn't like humans. The greatest horror these beings bring comes precisely from their indefiniteness and lack of concrete form, yet it would be a mistake to think that a formless creature is necessarily harmless. The power they possess is insufficient to lay waste to a forest, level a city or whip an entire sea into froth and waves. Today man is master of the world, but only for a short while. They await patiently and will soon arise and regain their one-time glory. This is as certain as dawn follows dusk, and dusk then follows again soon after to drown everything once more in darkness. The way and manners of Skellige folks. One's attention immediately is drawn to the fact that their seemingly impoverished huts shine with cleanliness. The walls of their homes are usually made from pine and covered with a substance derived from saps, which keeps out all manners of vermin. I believe it scares off insects as well, for I did not see a single one indoors during my entire stay in Skellige. The interiors of their huts are quite spacious and usually divided into two rooms. The first is used by the members of the household during the day and is separated by a doorway from the second, which acts as a bedroom and contains only simple wooden beds covered with linens that resemble sacks more than continental bedding. In the middle of each chamber stands a large round table around which the members of the household gather to eat only once a day. This usually happens just after dusk, the time for their main meal. The supper is a hallowed event and is carried out in a nearly ritualistic manner. At a start, before the family members have even taken their seats around the table, the eldest of the family stirs up a piece of bread and places it on something of a household altar, which occupies a place of honor in each Skellige home. This serves as a symbol of respect for deceased ancestors at the end of this ceremony for the departed. The entire family sits down to eat. The eldest woman places a stemming bowl in the middle of the table. Everyone has their own spoon, which they dip one by one into the basin of food. They most often eat porridge, over which they pour a gravy made from meat or fish. Curiously, immediately upon the supper's conclusion, the eldest takes the piece of bread set aside at the start of the meal and places it in a large amphora. As I later learned, when an amphora becomes full, it is filled with boiling water, and a beverage is brewed, which in turn somewhat resembles beer, though it is much weaker. The world underground. We hunkered down for the night in a cave so enormous the light from our torches faded into the murky black without revealing any upper bound to it. For the most of the night, all we could hear was the rushing of water somewhere behind the wall of the cave. Yet after some time, it is hard to say how much, for we had lost all sense of where day and dead and nights began. We heard a sort of scraping noise and then the sound of boulders shifting. The scrapping turned to a roar, but by that time we were already on our feet and running towards the tunnel through which we had entered the cave. We did so none too soon, for the shifting had opened up a new passage in the cavern, which began to spew out hordes of small, misshapen humanoids. Without breaking stride, I looked over my shoulder, and in the midst of the mass of midgets, I spied the outline of a large black troll. Thus began our run for our lives. My evening with a vampire. You will no doubt call me a liar, a cheat, and a madman. You will shake your head in pity and snort in disbelief. But I promise you, I swear on all the gods, everything we shall read in the pages is to follow the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I met the vampire of which I write years ago in an inn in Beauclair. He introduced himself to me as Regis and said he was a barber and a medic. Wasn't Regis Geralt's friend or something? Who died protecting Geralt? Yeah, it was. Dandelion was the one who told us this, right? During the party in the Witcher 1 game. If you don't know what I'm saying, guys, then you might have definitely not watched Witcher 1 Enhanced Edition. I will not recommend directly watching the series. Go to the playlist section, check out the Witcher 1 Enhanced Edition first, then Witcher 2, and then come back over here. Then you will understand what we are talking about. Okay. Yeah, what I was saying, I forgot. Alright, so Regis, okay. Then I might never have suspected Regis and said he was a barber and a medic. Since he looked in every aspect like a mortal man, I might never have even suspected his true nature had not a fire broken out shortly thereafter in the establishment in which we are residing. This Regis, if that truly was his name, stood completely untouched by the flames, whereas my own clothing quickly caught fire. The vampire carried me out of the burning inn, saved my life from certain death, then treated my numerous wounds. At first, Regis refused to answer my query as to how he had miraculously survived the furnace-like temperatures inside the burning inn without so much as a scratch on his body or a hair signed on his head. Eventually, however, he must have sensed I was a man of the world, one who would not jump to hasty judgments based on appearance or species, and revealed his identity along with a great number of highly interesting facts. According to Regis, not all vampires are alike. This vast family contains both mindless catechins, fletters, and echimeras, who in form resembles overgrown bats far more than humans, as well as absent bruxae, who look remarkably like comely maids. In addition to these, there are even more powerful higher vampires, to which Genus belonged my unexpected acquaintance. Oh, Regis was a higher vampire. But isn't higher vampire was someone else as well? I forgot the name. Not Fleder, not Ekimara. In the Witcher 1, I think there was a higher vampire. I'm forgetting the species name. Not even a Witcher can discern a higher vampire from a mortal man. Contrary to popular belief, they cannot be killed by pointing aspen stakes into their chest, nor by cutting off their heads, nor, as I can vouch for based on a personal experience, by fire. They do not fear running water, garlic, or the symbols of any creed. It might be some consolation to learn a vampire's bite does not turn a human into one of their number, and they do not in any way need our blood in order to survive. To them, it is merely a delicacy in which they indulge from time to time, like men do with the wine. Oh, so vampires don't need, or in this case, higher vampire don't need blood to survive, unlike these ones. Catechins and all these guys, the mindless creatures, and even Abs and Brooks says. Regis asked me to keep his tale to myself, but now as I lay on my deathbed, I feel that I must share this secret knowledge, even if it means breaking my word to this most noble individual. That's nice, actually. Higher vampire and all these things. You cannot even kill them, like cutting off their heads. Then what kills them? Raranson, son of Gunstead. When he awoke, he saw before him an endless swath of blue. On the horizon, the sky merged with glassy sea. The storm had passed, so had the longship and all its crew. He never learned how long he had lain unconscious in the lifeboat. The sun had scorched his skin a purplish red and turned his lips to brittle parchment. He was overcome by a great thirst, but there was nothing on the boat with which to quench it. Had he been spared from so much only to die now? No. Naranson was the son of the great Gunstead, and he would never give up. He had 20 springs under his belt when he embarked on this voyage. When was that? Long ago. Very long ago. Back when his friend still lived, when he still had his left hand, not this stiff stump. When his beard was still red and not streaked with silver. This sounds like Skelly gave one. The try for glory which had him drawn from his family home and demanded a high price, Naranson had never given that a second thought. But now, alone in a lifeboat in the middle of an endless ocean, he felt tired. He wanted to once again set eyes on the farm on which he had been raised, to see the eyes of the mother. Eyes of his mother who had lulled him to sleep with tales of the dead, deeds of the legendary heroes. Now he had become one of them. Now mothers would tell their sons about him. His greatest dream had become reality. He should have been happy, but he wasn't. Perhaps if he had known then what troubles and hardships awaited him. Yet no man can know his future. One thing is sure. However, even if Naranson had known what horrors his life had in store for him, he never would have chosen another. He was the son of the great Gunstead, and he had walked the path of glory from which one can never stray no matter the cost. Gunstead, okay. Kovir and Povis. Kovir and Povis are without a doubt the richest realms in the north. Few today remember that this was not always the case, yet their poverty was once literally and on everyone's lips, in the form of now antiquated common sayings. As recently as in the days of Heribert the Quarrelsome, one spoke of a particularly impoverished person as being poorer than a mouse from Povis. Really? An impoverished person is poor than a freaking mouse. Called Bone Broth Kovir Delight, and referred to beggars as Praxedas after the bay along the shores of which these kingdoms lie. Similarly, if you remember that a mere handful of generations ago, Kovir and Povis were still a part of Redania. King Radovid the First, known as Radovid the Great, handed dominion over them to his hated brother Troydon, with one stipulation that he never leave his newly acquired demesne and not interfere in matters of state. Okay, handling over his rocky scrap of far northern ground, where the saying went the year had two seasons, August and winter, was naturally meant as a cruel joke, a slap in the face of over-ambitious Troydon. Beast of the Tukaj foothills. The peasants of the Tukaj foothills say fiends are born of magic. Fiends are born of magic, for at times witches cast spells on bears, causing them to mount boars. And the resultant offspring is neither boar nor bear, but has the makings of a fiend. Oh, a fiend! Okay, a giant. Alright. The giant goat kind of monstrosities. The same one attacked at Crookback Bog, and God knows where. A lot of times I've been attacked by fiends. Usually such boar piglets die of hunger, but they are at times found and taken in by witches. Raised on enchanted milk, they grow in strength, and soon enough the milk is no longer enough for them. Now fiends, they start hunting and killing their victims with the ferocity of a boar and the strength of a bear. Yet they remain ever true to their mothers, meaning the witches. The witches protect them from danger, answer their every summons, and aid them in all things. Okay. Ghouls and Al-Ghouls. As for the genesis of ghouls, there are hypotheses aplenty. Some scholars claim these monstrosities arose from idiots who indulge in a taste for human flesh, and for this misdeed drew the wrath of the heavens down upon themselves. The gods punished them by taking away their souls, their minds, and their human forms. I don't know about this, but I think in the Witcher Enhanced Edition game, Witcher 1, ghouls, the bestiary entry is that a bunch of cannibals who were eating flesh turned into ghouls. My experiments have shown, however, that ghoul anatomy displays far too little in common with that of humans for this thesis to seem at all probable. Any and all similarity in appearance between ghouls and men, such as their somewhat kindred shapes and measures of their physiognomies, are pure matters of incidental circumstances. It thus follows that ghouls, like the wild cousins the Al-Ghouls, are post-conjunction creatures, that is to say, such beings as came to our universe in an abrupt cataclysm disrupting the normal laws of nature. Bestiary entries are being added, man. Golem, or man's most faithful servant. Despite what you might have heard, the first golem was created not by a powerful mage or an elven sage, but by a simple dwarf from Maribor named Bonaventura Sesto, a brickmaker. The fateful act of creation took place over a century ago when the persecution of non-humans was in full swing in Manipur. Elves and dwarves had been accused of bringing an epidemic to the city, though it was later discovered the outbreak has been caused by a man named Matthew. A bar keeps dog's body at the Golden Goose Inn. This Matthew was charged with both serving meals and cleaning the latrines and would only wash his hands once a month. Ew! And then not very thoroughly. The rest, as they say, is history. The persecution of non-humans was limited at first to robbing their shops, arson and occasional beating, but the violence soon escalated into a bloody pogrom. As the city guard looked on without lifting a finger, humans murdered elves and dwarves during 3 days and 3 nights of slaughter, killing over 300 individuals, including the aforementioned Bonaventura Sestro's family. Driven mad with grief and thirsting for vengeance, Bonaventura molded a 10-foot-tall humanoid out of clay and then carved the names of the slain non-humans onto it, along with a smattering of dwarven curses. Once finished, he slit his own throat, and when his blood splattered his gigantic statue, it came alive and started walking towards the city. Bonaventura had his sweet revenge on his persecutors. His creation killed almost 500 humans, including the mayor and the entire city council, before the soldiers from the city garrison could take it out using their ballista. The conclave's later investigation found that Bonaventura had possessed hidden magic talent. Though he had never had any training, the torrent of the powerful emotions running through him at the time of his death flushed out his latent powers and created from them a new spell. After numerous alterations and improvements, one can now cast this spell without sacrificing the life, and golems guard laboratories, libraries and palaces across the continent. So Ulcer and all those people started using this special ability, I think. Bonaventura Sesto. Wondrous worlds of insectos. One is hard-pressed to think of a creature more hard-working and better organized than the Endregas. Ants, bees and termites are no match for them in this regard. Endregas best even humans when it comes to foresightedness and industry. In fact, the human race could benefit a great deal from following their examples. Resigning from the primitive and obsolete social structures of feudalism and adopting instead a form of arachno-communism. Really? In arachno-communism, every individual has a specific place and performs a specific labor for the common good. The roles are as follows: worker, soldier and queen. Yeah, that is the same case in Endregas. There is Endrega workers, Endrega warriors, and a giant Endrega queen. That is, I don't remember whether that is in this game, but in The Witcher 2 Assassin of Kings we had Endrega queens. Each comrade contributes to the necessary daily toil according to his special abilities and takes from the common fund of wealth according to his special needs. Journey to the end of the world. Sirens, the harpies' distant relatives, are winged monsters found in the Skellige archipelago, most frequently on unpopulated islands or in the inaccessible coastal areas of populated ones. According to legend, they are daughters of the mythical winged giant Harasvelg, who lives on the edge of the world and births gales with the waving of his wings. Harasvelg's daughters seek out the company of giants and often make their nest near their lairs. These creatures attack boats and ships from the air, tearing sails and rigging to shreds and rendering the vessels immobile. At times they will snatch men or cattle from the deck and drop them from great heights to their death. They also attack travelers trekking across isolated beaches. Pearls of the North, Oxenford. Oxenford, a gem snuggling into the bosom of the Ponta to the east of Novigrad. A cradle erected upon Redanian soil, nurturing the greatest minds not only of that kingdom but of all the north. To walk its hallowed academy hills is to embark on a journey through learning from the finest points of philosophy to the greatest strokes of art, with stops made to admire architecture and dissect medicine along the way. Peer to either side and you will spy fellow travelers in your pilgrimage of learning, the students. They throng Oxenford streets, lending it an indelible imprint of youth that can be felt the moment you pass through its gates. Dormitories stand cheek by jowl. Booksellers hawk you tomes on every corner, and under every tree fresh faces debate poetry with passion. Yet youth is not all slate and compass, and the young have here shirk none of his other typical pastimes. Raucous and merry are the city streets, both by day and even more so by night. Though the city councillors have forbidden the sale of alcohol after dusk, no one seems eager to enforce this with stricture, and wisely so, For any loss of sleep is more than made up for by the gains, profits to fatten his innkeeper's pockets, and the late night crooning of troubadours to enrich his souls. As for his architecture, of particular note are the recently renovated elven aqueducts used to clean the city sewers. They stand as witness to the city's innovative spirits. You will not find their like in all the civilized world. So basically, this book is all about, marketing Oxenford City. Yet dominating the town's architectural visage like a glistening crown is the complex of buildings that comprises the Oxenford Academy. Few today remember that these edifices constructed by the elves predate the city itself. It is the institution that named the city and not vice versa. Oh, so because of the Oxenford Academy, I think the same academy where Dandelion also used to study. Oxenford Academy, the city got its name, Oxenford. Today, Oxenford Academy enjoys a reputation matched only by the Imperial Academy in Nilfgaard. Of great and renown, the departments of alchemy, natural history, minstrelsy and poetry, medicine and herbology, engineering, and last but certainly not least, philosophy. Okay, new quest, let's do this. A message from an old friend. Ice trolls, rock trolls, okay. Higher vampires, then Endrega drones, sirens, succubi, bunch of things. Okay, high stakes. Where is this one? Find the book with the red cover. Yeah, we are doing this one right now. And by the way, guys, I'm sorry, my planning for this episode was actually a bit different. I thought we would complete Hattori's mission, but I think this episode is now a reading session and all. The Merry Adventures of Muriel, the Lovely Harlot Illustrated Edition.
The Merry Adventures of Muriel the Lovely Harlot, adorned with humorous engravings.
Okay, before going anywhere, let's read that book. On one occasion, Muriel went on a journey to see her auntie in Maribor, accompanied by her nursemaid. Their path took them through a forest, and in this forest lived a Rukostropy of bandits. This infamous group was led by Flynn Sems, and all the king's men had been unable to bring them to justice. Alas, such as Muriel's great misfortune that these bandits chose to attack her carriage. Muriel's nursemaid was old, blind, and deaf. She did not wake when a tree fell in front of the carriage with a loud thud, nor when the bandits fought a fierce battle against their guardsmen. When Flynn ripped open the carriage door with his muscular arms and stepped inside, Muriel had to deal with the danger herself. "Make our guest comfortable, young lady," the old nursemaid muttered in her sleep. Muriel obediently carried out her instructions. What the hell? Okay, next book. The treatment of furuncles through cauterization study something.
The treatment of furuncles through cauterization, a study.
Furuncles through cauterization, alright, thank you. Everyone's seen a boil, usually more than they care to. These deformities don't just mar your beauty, they can be signs of disease or even the disease caused an epicenter. If your lungs wheeze and your heart flutters, or if you're just sick of pustules, you can carve them off and be free of this ill for good. When you go to carve off a boil, use a sharp knife when you have had a dog lick thoroughly beforehand, for a dog's tongue works wonders in healing wounds. You got to be brave as you go about it, slicing as confidently and steadily as if carving off a hunk of cheese, then quickly cauterize the resultant wound using a red-hot picker. Don't pay any mind to screams or tears. Thirst, bile, and any other humans need to be gathered in a basin, then dumped in a pit and pit covered, else the illness might return. What the hell, man? Okay, this is another book. Anything else? Oh, there are 4 books. What? So many books. Hey. Oh, what?
My belly.
Okay.
Eternal fire, how it hurts.
I thought you were doing that because I'm a non-human. But no, you are really being hurt or something. Okay, next book. My Manifesto, the life... Jogs here!
My manifesto. Must be it. There's a letter inside.
Oh, so this is the one, okay. My Manifesto, the life of Jogs the Aldersberg. The reason for choosing Jogs the Aldersberg as Grandmaster remains a mystery. If you don't know, guys, Jogs the Aldersberg, he was the main villain of the Witcher Enhanced Edition. The Order of the White Rose had gone through a crisis in those times and was on the verge of collapse. So one might guess that the brethren wished to have someone decisive as their leaders, someone with a clear vision. The Aldersberg was precisely such a man. One of his first decisions was to change the brothers' name to the Order of the Flaming Rose. Yeah, he was the one who came up with the name. Because his white rose that he had in his hand popped and fire came out of it or something. That is why he said Order of the Flaming Rose. The most puzzling aspect, however, is that the Order and the king himself decided to trust a man who, for all intents and purposes, had appeared out of nowhere. They say he was a wanderer, an Ethereal priest who moved crowds with his speeches declaiming non-humans. They say he worked miracles and showed his flock visions of world destroyed by the White Frost. The same vision that he showed us as well. He was undoubtedly a man of great charisma, one instilled with unshakable principles, which in turn tried to instill in others. Was he truly a source? Was he indeed gifted with raw magic talent? That we will never know for certain. Oh, I don't know whether he was a source. If you want to know he was a source or not, check out the Witcher Advanced Edition series. Letter from A. Witcher, in the ocean of possibilities, some events are more likely and some less. It is not easy to fish out the first, not even when one's intellect stretches through all time and space. Who is this? There is no one's name that is coming in my mind that starts with letter A. I left this letter for you in the hope that despite our loss, you will come across it one day, for I must warn you, mankind is threatened. Okay. Who is this? Letter from A. Mankind is threatened. The prophesied destruction by the White Frost is not just babbling of some mad she-elf. Perhaps I will have the opportunity to convince you of this in person. If not, I must rely on this letter, which you will read many years from now. Many years from now, at a time when you know more than you did when we first met. Who is this? Letter from A. If this is one of the comics, I might not know, because there are only two novels of The Witcher that I have read so far. Know that nothing will save the world except preparing its entire population for this catastrophe. The old tales say a child of the Elder Blood can stave off the danger, but I tried and failed. Whoever has written this is a child of the Elder Blood? Ever since I have been haunted by a hideous vision, a crowned wraith, the spectre of my failure. I was the chosen one and the chosen one failed. You and your brotherhood are our only hope. When the time of the wolf's blizzard comes, men shall perish and only the Uberman will survive. Your duty is to give the world Uberman. Whatever you think of me, do not fail as I have failed. A. I don't remember. That's it? Okay, that's it. Message from an old friend. I don't remember this. Oh, maybe the quest description might have that. Message from an old friend. A walk on the waterfront? Oh, this was the nobleman one. He was selling Fistech. Yeah, there it is. So Novigrad, which sadly the book dealer did not recognize, though he gave no outward sign. See, I don't know. Okay, who the old friend was. There is nothing written. Moribundia, the vampire's last likeness. 51 crowns. Thereupon Isabella took Edward's glistening visage in her hand and embraced his icy lips, which were twisted into a cynical grin. Forgive me, my love, she whispered, stifling the sobs heaving her bosom. But my heart doth long with fiercer passion for yon werewolf, whom thou hatest with all the vampiric thoroughness. 'Tis for the best, spoke Edward, shifting his pale face towards the equally pale moon. 'Tis for the best. With me, the life was ever endangered. With you, werewolf, thou shalt now peace and happiness. Edward turned around and took a step towards the exit, but Isabella grabbed his wrist and bade he stop. Edward turned around and, the touch of her hand was so tender his heart nearly began to beat anew after centuries of deathly stillness. There is more, spoke she, averting her spirit. I am with child. Tyromancy, or the noble art of cheese divination. What is this? What splendid diversity reigns in the kingdom of cheese? There is something like this. The ripened curd can be white or blue, hard or soft, fresh or aged from the milk of cows. Oh, so they talks about cheese. Okay, the cheese, the item cheese. All right. I thought there is a whole kingdom that is made of cheese or something. Anything is possible in Witcher. Okay. Well, what you're saying, the list could go on till the end of the time, and each of them every last slice, every morsel and crumb not only brings with it an unmatched rush of sensory experience, but in the right hands can be made to reveal the universe's most closely guarded secrets. For cheese, like the innards of sacrificed animal, the flight of a swallow or vivid dreams can be used for divination. The depth and size of a cheese holes reveal when rains will fall in the coming year, while the color of mold beans tells who shall love whom, and the scent of a hard grana padano predicts which army will vanquish its foes and which shall perish. The best divination, however, is done using the ancient method of fondue. One must simply melt two different kinds of cheese, preferably emmental and Gruyere, in white wine or in a pinch in a dry apple cider. Then one must use a long stick to immerse a morsel of bread in the resultant thick soapy mixture, all the while keeping in mind the question, what shall my child be like when he or she, as the case may be, grows? Then bring the cheese-covered morsel of bread up to a candle so that it casts a shadow on the wall. The chef will provide a sure and easily understood answer. Really? You can understand how your child is going to look like just by looking at the cheese reflection? What the hell, man? Alright. That's it. Although there are still bestiaries left. Hold on. Okay, let's read out the bestiary entries and then end the episode. So we have got in hybrids we have got whoa, sirens. What kind of creatures these guys are? Igni and Art sign. Out at sea, if you hear a beautiful woman singing, turn the ship around at once. You understand? Even if it means sailing straight back into a storm. Eric of Hindersfell, advice given to his son before his first solo voyage. Like skilled hunters setting out wooden ducks to lure in drakes, sirens and lamias lure men near using their own bodies as decoys. They can transform to resemble beautiful human maidens, though with tails covered in silver scales instead of legs. Oh, these things. Once a naive sailor gets within arm's reach of these beautiful creatures, their fair faces suddenly turn to fang-filled fish-like maws, and lovely tails promising unknown delights become sharp, death-dealing talons. Once legend claims sirens and lamias were once friendly towards men and supposedly were even known on rare occasions to accept some sailors' clumsy attempts at courtship. In our day, however, they are decidedly aggressive, perhaps soured by the numerous kidnappings of carried out by frustrated sea salts. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. These days, the monsters display no signs of goodwill, and so when spotting them, one should immediately reach for one's own silver sword. Sirens and lamias, the sirens' more dangerous cousins, usually hunt in flocks, making use of their numbers as well as their ability to move effortlessly through water and air. Wow, these creatures are both air and waterborne. On the ground, however, they are virtually defenseless, and so a wise tactic is to damage their fin-like wings to force them to land. The Igni sign also proves effective in fighting against them. Threatened or injured, sirens will let out a terrifying shriek, leaving their opponents stunned, while they escape and their sisters swoop down for an easy attack. Succubi. Oh, it's a succubus. This was in the Witcher 2 game. I mean, not in the series, but Yorveth part that I took off camera, it was there. Again? Good grief, woman, I'm spent. Lester of Smalton to Succubus a few days before taking a voyage of celibacy. Unlike other monsters, succubi and menace feel no desire to kill, do not crave human blood, and usually do not in fact mean any harm at all. They are motivated by one thing and one thing only, an insatiable lust. They try in vain to slake this by engaging in sexual acts with any other humanoid species they encounter. But it must be admitted that their victims rarely put up much resistance. This does not mean succubi and menace do not present any danger. The never-ending advances, though pleasurable at first, have pushed more than one man to madness or even death. Succubi and menace usually can be found near human settlements, including small villages and populous cities. They prowl at night, though when stricken by serious need, they will leave their lairs during the day as well. They shower their reflections on men as well as women, the young as well as the old, the ugly as well as the beautiful. Some of them are particularly fond of pastors and other holy men, whose seduction they treat as a sort of game. Really, man. See, this is crazy. Those succubi are peaceful by nature. When forced to fight, they will defend themselves fiercely. One should thus not be fooled by their fair appearances. Under the velvety skin of their arms lie muscles of iron, and blow delivered with their rare goat-like legs or the thick horns on their head can easily crush bones. Okay, from insectoid they have got Endrega drone. What the hell? Lazy, good-for-nothing men are sometimes called drones. That's an insult to Endrega drones, who at least get off their butts to fight. Evelyn Harker, herbalist. Endrega males called drones are gluttonous creatures whose only aim on life is to eat, fight and reproduce. Yet when venturing outside their nest, these aggressive hunters attack any and every creature they come across. Endrega drones live but brief lives, the culmination of which comes in an autumn when they fertilize the queen. They pass the time leading to that moment protecting the colony's territory. Weaker drones die in these battles while the largest and strongest survive. These elect individuals' genes are passed down to the next generation of Endregas, while they themselves are killed after fertilization takes place and their bodies used to feed the hive during the long winter months. These Endregas are so systematic. Drones are easy to identify thanks to their distinctive cone-shaped abdomens. Unlike other Endregas, they can attack from a distance, sending out volleys of poisoned quills. As with all of their kind, bleeding has no effect on them and insect oil does them great harm. So this is Endrega warriors, Endrega workers and Endrega drones. Okay, so there are 3 different types. Okay, in Ogroids we have got ice trolls. Our winters cold and deep, frostbite eats your feet, snow falls down and hides the ground, and ice trolls wake from sleep. Folk song heard in northern Kedwan. Climbing to the top of snow-covered peaks is never a safe endeavor. One can slip and fall into a ravine, be buried in an avalanche, or stumble across ice trolls. Unlike the rock trolls found at lower altitudes, these permafrost-dwelling monsters treat every man they encounter as possible ingredient for a tasty meal. Luckily, ice trolls live atop high mountains, ridges so inaccessible they rarely encounter humans, and some suppose this is why they have not mastered the basics of common speech. Others claim their harsh mountain home was stripped them of an ability they once possessed, for in a land of never-ending cold, there is no room for mercy and understanding. Yeah, that's true. Ice trolls are crueler than their rocky kin, though they use similar tactics in battle, tossing stones and sprinkling with their mighty fist. They are heartier and stronger than rock trolls, and thus more dangerous. Like rock trolls, their backs are covered in thick protective armor, meaning one should never strike them from the rear. Meanwhile, their mass means that the earth sign cannot move them. Lastly, never think of attacking them during a blizzard. At such times, they draw power from the surrounding cold and fight with increased strength. Rock trolls are normal trolls, I think. Man must readily talk, but not tricksy or troll boom man head. Rock troll dwelling in a cave and Andvik. If while hiking high in the mountains you come across a walking stone, do not think your eyes deceive you. Instead, drawing your sword for before you stands a rock troll. True, not every encounter with these creatures ends in a fight. While not particularly intelligent, trolls are capable of reason, but it is better to prepare for the worst. Otherwise, your hike might end not on the summit but in their stew. Trolls are able to use fire and simple tools, and some of them have even mastered the basics of common speech. The linguistic nuances such as conjunctions and declinations escape them. They're extremely fond of riddles, rhymes, and all sorts of wordplay. A fact a witcher in possession of a bit of wit can use to his advantage. If a fight proves inevitable, one must watch out for the stones these trolls throw with great strength and shocking precision. Their powerful heavy fist also presents a danger, for they can even buckle the sturdiest breastplate or cuirass. Since their backs are covered in a layer of rocky growth, the blows delivered from behind will not do them much damage. They must thus be fought directly, standing face to face, and preferably armed with a sword covered in a fresh coating of ogroid oil. Okay. Lesions and all these monsters. Vampires. Higher vampires. Looks exactly like a human. Men, the polite ones at least, would call me a monster. A blood-drinking freak, Emil Regis, higher vampire. Only a mutual thirst for a blood links higher vampire to their distant and much more primitive cousins, Akimaras, Apes, Catechins, and the like. Higher vampires are in fact much more similar to humans than those bat-like blood slurpers. They not only resemble us in appearance but also share our intelligent behavioral patterns. This means they do not squat in distance, forest, or hide in the shadows. On the contrary, they are particularly fond of cities, where they live out deceivingly normal lives. Even witchers are not capable of recognizing them at once. So the medallions remain perfectly motionless in the presence of higher vampires. Yet all these similarities should not blind us to an essential difference. Unlike men, higher vampires are immortal. Oh, they are completely immortal. Wow. Those who have faced them in combat and survived can be counted on one hand. Oh, so not many have survived higher vampires, if they have fought these guys then. It is a witcher's good fortune that higher vampires are extremely rare and not all are dangerous to humans, so they do have a taste for blood. They do not need to drink it to survive. Some higher vampires have renounced feeding on humans altogether and do not harm to anyone, but others give in to their desires. A witcher who braves fighting a higher vampire must bear in mind that he faces a monster endowed with incredible strength, one able to manipulate men and animals, turn invisible, and transform into a giant bat, and furthermore, one which it is nearly impossible to kill. In other words, even an experienced monster slayer should think twice before accepting a contract on one of these creatures, even if half a kingdom and a priest's hand is in the offering. Okay, so the higher vampires are difficult. Alright. So okay guys, in this episode we just stayed here in this house. We never went out because there was this was all about reading session, and now we have to do the secondary quest, that is this one, Swords and Dumplings. We have to meet Sucrus by Van Horn's warehouse at night time, but it's already 50 minutes, or I think more than 50 minutes, I don't remember. So I think I will end this episode over here, and in the next episode guys we are going to continue with this series, and in the next episode guys I promise you we are going to go for Swords and Dumplings. I was not expecting these many books to be left. So in the next episode we are going to go for Swords and Dumplings, and if we get time then I might think of following the thread, and this is the, okay, not this one, find a master armor in Velen. We also got this. Well, anyways, we will see about 2 to 3 quests. Alright, so okay guys, I think I will end this episode over here. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you love this video, make sure to like it, share with friends and relatives, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching guys. Take care everyone, and bye bye.